Hereby call the regular meeting of Los Altos School District Board of Trustees to order. A recording and or broadcast of this meeting is being made at the direction of the board, which may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. We start by calling the roll. Jessica?
Here.
Shelley?
Here.
Vladimir?
Here.
Steve? Here. I'm also here. All board members are present. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, would some of the Oak students please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
You want to face this way?
Okay, I'm gonna pick the flag. The flag is in the back. Okay, get started. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to D3, agenda approval. Would any board members like to provide comment on the agenda? Would any board members like to offer a motion to approve the agenda? Motion to approve the agenda made by Vladimir, seconded by Shally. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. D4, closed session report. Staff was given direction, but no official action was taken in closed session. Moving on to D5, superintendent's update.
All right, a few things. I shared with you, we have our final elementary music concerts happening this week. So it was on your weekly update on Friday. Dates, I think it's Loyola tomorrow, Santa Rita Wednesday, and Gardner on Friday. We also have 3 open houses happening this Thursday. Thank you, Steve. You're going to be at Oak. Brian, I think we're going to try to get to Santa Rita, and I will be at Loyola. So it's an exciting and busy time at all of our schools. Since we last met, we officially received the Hoffman Award for our computer science program, which is about to get here. And then I just heard from Mrs. Alex Schroeder, who is one of our computer science teachers on Friday. She stopped by my office to let me know that she had been accepted to present at the National Computer Science Teachers of America Conference this summer. So she is so excited to be a presenter. Outstanding. So we're really proud of our program as it continues to grow and evolve. A few of us will be at the farmers market this Thursday. Come by and say hello. It's always a fun time. We'll be there, I think, from 4 to 6. Eric and I had a great kickoff meeting with Block Construction and Quattrocki Quack Architects. I can barely say that, but if you say it real fast, it just rolls off the tongue. Around the first design phase for the 10th site. So we had an hour-long meeting with them to kind of talk about how we're going to get working on designing the 10th site. So it was a great meeting. We're happy to partner with them. I really talked to them about this idea that we're building a great asset for the district, a 10th site in LASD. We'll figure out who's going to be there ultimately, but it really is a great asset for Los Altos School District. And then we met last week with our district advisory meeting, which included Steve for our facilities master plan. We have Brandon, who's one of our parent reps, Wade Spinator, Eric, Carrie and I. And so we started talking about, they actually had site plans ready for us to look at based on all the feedback that the sites had given. We were starting a prioritization exercises. They're actually, the architects are coming to our leadership meeting tomorrow to share the site plans with each principal to get a little bit more feedback and prioritization. And they will be coming to our June 10th meeting to give you a draft facilities master plan and be able to give some input on there for some additional work that can happen over the summer. So we're ready to launch in the fall with a real clear plan for the district and for each site. I think that is the bulk of my update.
Thank you. We'll move on to E1 Oak School. Presentation.
All right, as you can see, we brought some, a few people. We're very excited. Our students are going to be presenting, what they've been learning in the classroom. And for that, I turn to their teacher, Ms. Webster and Ms. Allenbeck.
Thank you for.
Hi, so we are the first grade team, Teresa Allenpat, and I'm Jill Webster, and we have some fabulous first grade students tonight here with us to talk to you about our social studies standard. And a big standard that we learn about during the year is reporting out on patriotic symbols, landmarks, documents, and songs. So together with our librarian, the kids all got a book on one of these landmarks, documents, songs, and worked to research, to read, to find keywords, to turn keywords into factual sentences, and also determine why their landmark, document, or song was important. And then they made a poster about this. They could print pictures, they could draw pictures. And then along with our speaking and listening standard to present on a topic, they each got up in front of their class and presented their information and taught the class about their landmark. And they memorized their presentation so that they could focus on the importance of looking at somebody when they spoke and speaking clearly. After we finished 20 plus 20 other presentations, we worked to learn a line for our musical. So on Wednesday, we are presenting American Symbols on Parade, where every student has a speaking part, and we will sing 6 patriotic songs for our parent community, and following by a fabulous cast party where we are making apple pie and doing art, and we are programming bebots to landmarks, and we are using Legos to build the Washington Monument and Uncle Sam's hat and the Lincoln Memorial. Just a really fun, culminating day. And so we have 4 brave first graders today who would like to share their report with you. And all these other first graders who are going to sing one of our songs to you that's coming up from our musical. So, you want me to hold this? Okay.
Hi, my name is Vince, and I would like to teach you a few facts about Yellowstone. Yellowstone is America's first national park. It is located in Wyoming and parts in Montana and Idaho. You can find bison, bears, and bobcats in Yellowstone. One famous landmark is the Old Faithful Guide. They erupts once now. Other famous landmarks include Mammoth Hot Springs, Dragon's Mouth Springs, and Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. A fire in 1988 burned 36% of the national park. Yellowstone is important because it is America's first national park, has geysers, hot springs, and mudbots, and has many species of wildlife. Did you know that you have to stay 25 yards away from bison and elk, and 100 yards away from bears and wolves to be safe? Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned something new about Yellowstone. Hi, my name is Devika Maheshwari, and I will be presenting the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty was a gift from France. Statue of Liberty is the symbol of friendship between the 2 countries. Liberty means freedom. The Statue of Liberty is the symbol of freedom from England. The Statue of Liberty was the tallest structure in New York when it was built. Statue of Liberty stands on Liberty Island in New York Harbor. Statue of Liberty took 9 years to build. Statue was built in France, and the pedestal was built in the USA. Without the pedestal, it would be as tall as a 15-story building. I hope you learned some fun facts about the Statue of Liberty. I'm Arian, and today I'll be presenting the U.S. Constitution. U.S. Constitution is a written set of rules that guides the country. Some examples, the U.S. Constitution tells us the three branches of the government and their powers. It also states our rights as citizens. Now let's learn about the three branches. The three branches are legislature, executive, and judiciary. The legislature has the Senate, the Congress, and the House of Representatives. The executive has the president, the vice president, and the cabinet. The judiciary has the courts. The goal of the three branches is to make sure none of the branches have too much power. Now let's move on to amendments. Amendments are a way to change the Constitution. It's very hard to make this change. There were 9,000 suggested, but only 27 added. Some examples are no more slavery was one amendment. Another amendment was women's right to vote, and another amendment was reducing voting age. Now let me share some fun facts. It was written in 1787. It's the oldest and shortest constitution in the world. You can find the real copy at National Archives Museum in Washington, D.C. Did you know that Thanksgiving Day was originally a day of thanks for this constitution and government? The 27th Amendment took 200 years to pass. You can celebrate the Constitution by celebrating Constitution Day. I hope you like my presentation. Hi everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge was made in Hi everyone. My name is Sophia. Today I'm going to tell you about the Golden Gate Bridge. It was built in 1937. The bridge is colored in a bright orange color that you can see from far away. The bridge is so long, it's like walking across 18 football fields put together. It's been in lots of movies like superhero movies. Sometimes, when it's windy, the bridge moves a little like it's dancing. Sometimes, fog covers the bridge like a fluffy blanket, making it look cool and mysterious. The Golden Gate Bridge is important because it connects San Francisco to Marin County, making it safe and easy for people to travel between the two cities. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Just speak. Yeah, not too close at all. No problem. I don't hate that. Okay, Jack. One, two.
You're and forever peace may reign. You're in the home of the free and the brave. Our beats true, neither the never closer. But should all waiting be forgot, keep your candle. Your candle You're the we are peace to neither red, white, and blue, when you never stop. But you're all trained to be here. No.
If you want to hop over to Oak on Wednesday morning, our music will start at 8:30, and then all the fun begins from 10:30 to 12 o'clock for our cats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, I will give everybody who is not staying for the rest of the meeting 5 minutes to clear the room as quickly and quietly as you can, just so that we can.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
All right, moving on to F, consent calendar. Would any board members like to provide comment on the consent calendar? I would like to provide one comment, just with regards to F5, the adolescent counseling services contract. I know that mental health, in the transition from CHAC, there's a lot of concern in our community about mental health. So I know that there were some metrics in this contract, and so I'd appreciate it if the board could get an update at some point during next year, just to make sure that the new organization is living up to those metrics. That would just be great, because I know we have community members who will be asking us about that. If there are no other comments, would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So
I'll second.
Motion to approve the consent calendar made by Vladimir, seconded by Shally. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item G, employee request to address the board. Do we have anybody from our organization? Seeing nobody, then we will move on to provide public comment on an agenda item. Speaker cards are to be submitted to the superintendent. Speaker cards will not be accepted once public comment on an item begins. Your name will be announced when it is your turn to speak. H, community comments. We do have one, so let me read the preamble. This time is reserved for members of the public and employees to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board is not permitted to discuss or take action on non-agenda items except to instruct the superintendent to review the matter further, report back to the board at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. The board may make a brief comment or ask clarifying questions. We have one speaker, so they will have 3 minutes. Please decide.
Hi, my name is Lisa Sung. I'm a sixth grader at Covington and a first grader at Santa Rita. I'm speaking today because students in our district have unmet mental health needs. I'm not the only one who feels that mental health care is near impossible to access. Many providers don't bother with wait lists. Why would they when demand exceeds supply tenfold? I've never heard of a wait list shorter than 3 months long. Often they are long. Qualified providers regularly move out of this area, which is a very high cost of living. In-network providers go out of network to better meet their own financial needs. And even fewer provide services to children or families, which means that there are very few after-school appointment slots available. And when they become available, they're immediately taken. If you add in personality fit, specializations, and out-of-pocket costs, before you know it, months of waiting turn into years of making do. That is my experience and the experience of many families that I've spoken with. Vladimir, you had asked, are there any students who don't get the help they need during the last presentation? I thank you for asking that question, because not only is the answer unequivocally yes, but also I would like to share that students at schools with a higher needs demographic, such as Santa Rita, are disproportionately impacted by the district's planned shortfall. I'm aware that the school district doesn't wish to serve as our kids' primary mental health provider. But you should know that across our district, it doesn't even cover emerging needs and triage. For example, CHAC's Director of School-Based Services, Joanna Carson-Young, shared that Santa Rita accounts for 30% of the total need in the district. Historical allocations from CHAC in the present plan with 4 days of support for Santa Rita covers up to 22%. This leaves 8% of the total district needs unserved. But that 8% district-wide impact is borne exclusively by the community of Santa Rita. If my math is correct, this means that 27% of students in need at Santa Rita aren't served. More than 1 in every 4 students who are in need of support are turned away. I ask this board to please keep asking questions of the district's plans for mental health and to show us the data. We know you've been asked to do more with less. We know that it is unsustainable. We walk for Measure A and support bond measures for capital improvements and donate to our foundations and our PTAs and volunteer time. I'm not advocating for a shift of resources from one school to another. I don't begrudge any of our communities having their needs fully met. Rather, I'd like for our board and our superintendent to know that every obstacle, big or small, that prevents students from receiving timely, reliable, and trusted mental health care at schools negatively and disproportionately impacts those that need it the most. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we'll be moving on to our action discussion items. I-1 special education update.
Steve, you brought some friends, Jennifer.
Sure. Good. I brought some friends today. We're not nearly as cute as the last friend. Sorry about that. Yeah, we will not be saying no props and no song. Sorry. Just if I just press it, then it's better. All right, good evening, board members, superintendent team. I'm excited to be able to share a little update with you today. I did bring some friends with us, and I'll introduce them as we get started. But I wanted to be able to share something that we call the allyship project for Los Altos. And part of my job, other than ensuring compliance, making sure that students get served, making sure that we hire the right people and support the right people, and make sure that that world of special ed continues to move, is to also look around and see what the needs of students are. And after COVID, we really noticed that we saw a decrease in the flexibility of like for different other people's differences. We saw some of the students among the peer groups were kind of having a decrease in their like kind of ability to be flexible around other people's differences, and then more separation of groups. And so that was something that my specialists in our team meetings, we kept hearing more. There was just more separation of groups. And so what is something, you know, as think what's going on for the next year that we can be thinking of. I was kind of trying to think about what could we do systematic to really make an impact for students, right? And so the idea of allyship came up. And so really, if you look at, you've seen those boxes before, the first part of equity, we really work to provide scaffolding and support and things so that the students can all have equal access. I think in Los Altos, we do a great job with equal access. We have a lot of students here with a lot of different needs. We ensure equal access to learning for them. The next step is really removing any of those barriers the students have, really the freedom. And that's what we do. We spend a lot of time trying to ensure students have freedom to be able to be part of what they need. But it's that last box that we're really targeting with the allyship is that they're all members of the team, right? And so you can be there physically, but are you there like with that sense of belonging? And that's the idea of the allyship. Allyship really is thinking about the actions and the behaviors and the practices to be able to, that leaders take, that we do as leaders with it, to for individuals that don't belong to that same social group and that same identity. So that's kind of where it started. And then at the end of last year, I called in some team leaders from each of the schools and talked with the principals and kind of had them do a needs assessment for their schools. What's a target population? Like it could be, 5 kids, it could be 50 kids. But what's your target population at your school that you're really feeling isn't feeling fully included? Because if we just change the trajectory of 5 kids towards a feeling of belonging, then that's 5 kids that really have a difference, right? So thinking about that, what that looks. So we did some needs assessment at the end of last year. And the beginning of this year, we started our allyship project where we came together and thought each school picked what was one thing that they wanted to work on. But the idea of let's start small and targeted, and then we can grow things. But the idea that we're going to work on really that sense of inclusion and belonging. So we did some brainstorming sessions. We brought in people from Supporting Inclusive Practices. It's a California Department of Education grant that we received. We're a recipient of that. And we brought in some of those think tank people and kind of supported each other in creating what their project was and how they were going to roll it out. And then we met a couple of times throughout the year. So tonight's presentation is kind of what is that? What were their projects and where did we go for each of the schools? Before we think about that we do want to, we district-wide, we have onus in this too, right? So it's easy to be like, well, Almond, you're going to do, let's do this. But we're part of that too. And all of us are, including you. And so you laid into that by the actions of creating that inclusive playground, right? That laid the foundation for being able to have an inclusive group that happens in Covington. We talk about Covington's project. This playground is very integral to that. So you're part of that allyship project, even if you didn't know that. It was all part of our master plan. Our preschool collaborative, we have this wonderful preschool program that includes students with abilities from all levels and students on IEPs. And it takes effort to continue that. Right? We do screenings to include neurotypical partners that are the language and the social models. And it takes a lot of effort. We do it a couple times a year as we grow our students with IEPs, we grow our neurotypical friends. And that takes a lot of effort and dedication. And if you look at it, one of our kiddos, his mom said he never had a birthday party before. His friends were all at school. So she brought the birthday party to preschool. And so we can see that just pure look of joy, right? So that preschool collaborative is really much part of our larger allyship project. And then our co-teaching. And then that's where we'll start with our first guest. We have Sandra and Greg interviewing Molly Kesselring, who was our inclusion coach. Co-teaching coach and highlighting on the podcast, which again is a support, it's a district-wide support. So with that, I'm going to have Molly step up.
So thankfully, I've been here a few times over the years because we've been building our co-teaching throughout the years. And I know different teams that I support have been in and talked to you, and they're so excited. And so it's been wonderful. Again, co-teaching is that collaboration of 2 highly certified specialists coming together to meet the needs of all kids in the classroom and really making everything accessible, that grade level material accessible to all kids. So we don't have to pull them out to go to a separate room to get exactly what they need. Not that intervention doesn't need to happen as well for certain kiddos, but what can we do inside the general education setting? So we do divide our responsibility. We share our time. We have some fun pictures of the different teachers coming together. And then it's just really agreeing on those accommodations and modifications and getting the different topics thought of in a broader way, and how can kids show their learning in a different way. If we're in a reading unit, we don't necessarily have to write a paper to prove we've read this book and are really getting a deeper understanding. So what kind of options could we make available for all kids? And then it's fantastic that the choices that they come up with in the presentations. So it's been wonderful. And a team was on a PLP day today and has next fall all planned out for 8th grade, and everybody's super excited. So it's just really productive. And then really the teams, this building, the partnerships and everything comes together. We have each other's back, but then it's great. I do start getting photos from my co-teaching teams when you end up dressing alike on the same day. Then you know you're like right in that rhythm. And one of my teams sent a picture just last week. They're like, hey, look, unplanned outfit change, matching outfits when we're into the classroom. And it's great. It's at both junior highs. We've got 4 elementaries currently active using the co-teaching model. And literally this morning, at one of mine, actually out at Santa Rita, one teacher was out for a day and the kids were like, absolutely not. We cannot teach math. You are both not here. Like, so they really depend on that differentiation happening right there in the middle school or in the gen ed classrooms. That's really where that inclusion piece starts. Let's get them into the room and then really see what we can get out of them in that setting with that nice high bar. So that's been wonderful. And it's been growing every year. So thankfully, hopefully we'll be at all at one time. But we've been shifting. So, yeah, thank you.
And it is great that we have 4 elementary schools that are dabbling in co-teaching, and other districts have come to try to, how does it work in elementary? Because it is a lot trickier than it is just with the master schedule putting 2 teachers together. So hats off to Molly for all of the work she has by supporting the planning and the partnership that goes along with co-teaching. We really opened up the access for kids. It's really
What are the 4 elementaries?
This year, Santa Rita, Almond, Springer, and Loyola. But I have been at Gardner Bullis in the past as well. So it depends on caseload need, but yeah, so that's my current situation with the 2 junior highs. Yep, you're welcome.
All right, so we're going to jump into the site at Almond. If you recall, we did move our special day classrooms from Springer to Almond. So this is the first year including students with a little bit more significant disabilities there as a larger group. So we really, the target students were those students that were in the special day classrooms, in the small group instruction classroom. So we wanted to find ways to include them socially. And they might not be out there with the competitive games as much, but to be able to find ways to connect. So they started a game club. And if you can see, it started out once a week and then it grew. It started in one classroom and they had to go to the multi because so many kids were wanting to come. And ended up being a very positive choice. We had kids that normally wouldn't play even with adults, would play with kids. And so a couple of the students in these pictures will refuse to play with adults, but if you put a peer next to them, they're super happy to engage in that. So the impact has been really positive. At one point, they had 45 different kids coming. And so next year, part of this we charge with, where are we going to grow this from? So start small and grow. And so they're going to expand the age range that they're going to do and be able to have more than just right now the SPED team members are the ones for it, but they're looking at having that be maybe some leadership, some 6th grade leaders and some of that leadership to be able to take over. All right, Block, our next guest speaker is Kira Cohen, and she's going to talk a little bit about what's happening out there. Do you want to share?
Right. Hi there, I'm Kira. I'm the futures teacher at Block. So that means I teach the students with the most intense academic and adaptive needs on our campus. And so I started teaching a new class at Block called Peer Tutors. And so what Peer Tutors is I have 5 students. So it's 5 Gen Ed 8th graders who come and take my class for one of their periods. So they're giving up one of their electives to take my class instead. And it starts with a month of training about what it means to be a peer tutor. So a lot of my students have difficulties with communication and like behaviors and stuff like that. So even do some like role playing of like what it would feel like to try and communicate something complex without having verbal language. And then being like, wow, that's really frustrating. Okay, well now imagine that that's how my students live their lives. And like gaining that empathy and learning about prompting and different ways to help. And then for the rest of the semester, they're paired with one particular student. That way they really get to know that student. And because again, my students have difficulties with communication, through being paired with just one student, they really get to know them, get to understand their unique form of communication and really build that bond throughout the course of about 3 to 4 months. And they're with them for the whole time, helping them out in their gen ed class. So we've had them helping in PE, in our Maker Lab engineering class, and photography going and helping. And then once a week, we do like a check-in to see how things are going, what I can help them with. I also am going and observing and like in the moment giving real-time feedback for them to how to better support them in their gen ed classes. So this is the group from first semester with their buddies. And then it kind of culminates in a final project that they do. So this is one of the final projects. This week, Thursday, they're presenting their projects for this semester about what it is that they've learned. And so this was back in February. We've been having meetings, and these were my like next step action plans that I wanted to implement throughout the rest of the school year. So starting block buddies, like a lunchtime club, getting my students attend special games, which is similar to Special Olympics, which was at the end of April. So getting some of their peer tutors to help them at special games and attending it with them. And then having the peer tutors plan an inclusion spirit day for the entire school. And so we were successful in all of these things. We did start block buddies. You can see we did like an arts and crafts one day, and we did cookie decorating a different day. There's them at special games, and they were helping them with the different activities, also supporting them with like, oh, it looks like you need a break, because they knew their buddies so well that they're like, we need a break, and these are the objects that I knew we needed to pack today to make sure that they were going to be successful. And then our inclusion spirit day, the idea that they came up with was wearing silly sunglasses or sunglasses to show seeing the world through a different lens. And so these are two of our pairings this semester with their sunglasses. Yeah, and so really what I've seen is this is my first year, and so I have seen the way that this program has grown this year. With the students just making friends and having some of the peer tutors choose to come in during lunch, even on days where we're not having the lunchtime club, and spending time with the students, even kind of like as extra time. So like I'm seeing the gen ed students really wanting to participate and enjoying this. This is a quote from one of the peer tutors from this semester, that currently I'm very happy and proud of Martin and I being able to enjoy and see grow throughout the year. Interactions with Martin are some of my favorite parts of the day. I learned so much from this class inside, and I can use what I've learned from this class in the real world, and it shaped me, and I'm happy in it. So it's having an impact on our gen ed population as well, and growing their empathy and understanding for people's differences. And so the hope is to just expand the program. Right now, I have 5 students, so there's 5 peer tutors per semester, but I'd love for it to get bigger. And there's so many more students at my school who would benefit from having peer tutors, not just the ones in my classroom. And then I just don't think that my classroom or these programs are very visible on my campus. So that's where I could work with the campus as wider to make us more visible, and also hopefully bring in more of those gen ed students who might have an interest who just doesn't know that this exists. Because I was one of those peer tutors when I was in high school, and it has clearly shaped my life. And so the hope is that that will do the same for others. Yeah, that's one.
Thank you. And she has, the culmination project is lovely. And this was just an idea on paper, and she just made it become alive. But we have a video to share with you. So I couldn't sync it all up, but I have a video to share with you. But it was really neat, and kids' own words, like how the elective has really changed their view on life. So it's really cool. So thank you. Covington, so as you see, that playground was pretty instrumental. They have a lunch buddy program that they started there to really work on those peer interactions and social skills, and also to target kids who might need a mentor role, who never have the opportunity to be mentors, because they might be singled out as having challenges, maybe within their own peer grouping, but they have something to still give and something to be able to support, and they haven't really found their way. So they targeted kind of 2 different groups at Covington, and they came up with CHAMPS, Children Helping and Mentoring Peers for Success. So they have their CHAMPS buddies, and they have structured activities. It's a little bit smaller scale than what they're doing at Block, but they learn about their buddy, they keep the same buddy for a while. And they really were targeting other I think it was 4th and 5th, or 5th and 6th grade students who needed something to kind of grow and have ownership of. And we have seen the benefit on the mentor side, phenomenal students who really have shined and really grown in their empathy and compassion. And we're seeing that the teachers are even seeing that carry over within the class, within their collaborative grouping in the classes. So it's been really, really phenomenal, that program. And so we we want to work to add that. So again, this is run all pretty much by special education. We want to be able to grow this program and have it take over and really have general education and special education and leaders join so that it can kind of keep perpetuating on it. All right, Ian, our other guest is Dana Hardister, and she's going to talk a little bit about.
Okay, so the last board meeting you had, Egan was the guest, and so you met the Avid students and their teacher. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do is with conferencing in middle schools, it's really difficult to get students in that are not just struggling. So with our Avid students, they're not struggling students and they're not behavior problems really. So they're typically students that wouldn't have a conference. And so something that we tried this year was student-led conferences. And so all the Avid students led their own conference with their parents. So their parents all got conferences. And so these are some of the words that I interviewed the students after conferences were over. And so these are some of the things that they said. Egan has a big focus the last couple of years of trying to make sure that everybody feels like they belong. So seeing like reading Keisha's words were pretty, to have her parents remark that they felt like they were, that she had a community within her classroom was a pretty impactful statement, at least to me when she said it to me. So that one really struck me. So when we think about student-led conferences, there's a lot of agency around that. Students are really taking the direction and showing their parents kind of what they're good at and what they need to work on. And then the Avid class is also helping them in their academic journey and taking responsibility for what they're doing and making good decisions. It gave parents the opportunities to kind of see and have a better understanding of how their students were doing. And then both parents and students were gaining the sense of community, which was something that we really were hoping for with students, but as a great byproduct, parents are feeling like they're a part of the community too. So in looking where we wanted to go, when I was talking with Connie, we want to try and expand it so that it goes into looking at our second language learners, and then also looking at piloting with some of our special ed students. So some of the parents, at least I teach the therapeutic program at Egan, and my parents are very nervous about having conferences. They get very, very nervous. And so having a student-led conference in a neutral room where the case manager is there and the kid is leading it could be super powerful. So really excited to see where that goes. And then
And then thank you, Dana, because what she was highlighting when we talked about take any group, it was more of a social justice inclusion that we were looking at. How do we, what student body might have been a little bit more marginalized, and then so Egan's an example of how that Allyship project is not just for students with disabilities. We're looking at any population that needs more inclusion. Gardner is one. Project Empathy. We kind of had some challenges trying to identify the right target group. And it turned out we really just were looking at a whole entire grade level of kiddos we really wanted to work with. And we were noticing a little lack of kindness to each other. And there was some things bubbling up. And so as a team with the teachers and the psychologists and the principal, myself and some other CNI folks, we kind of all sat together and looked at, let's really spend the last part of the sixth grade really working on building compassion and empathy among this group, and send them off the right way to Egan, right? So we have something we created called Project Empathy. We are taking from the Lucy Calkins curriculum, the social justice readers and writers curriculum piece. We're adding to that an entrepreneur curriculum called Build, where you take a human-centered kind of problem and challenge and you work together to find what's the focus, what would be a product you could make to support that person. And then also from the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, some specific direct teaching on compassion and empathy and those types of team building. And so putting all of these things together is a lot of people working together and to really target building empathy for this sixth grade team. And what we've seen is we have seen kids really be able to work more collaboratively and collaboratively in groups that they haven't chosen for themselves, mixed groupings. And we've seen them be a lot more open and inclusive to other perspectives, which is great. We continue, this project still has another month or so left, a little less than a month, and we are looking forward to tracking some of these students and seeing what that looks like when they're in Egan next year. But again, so. All right, Loyola worked on something, again, the target students were our special day class students. And so we started out with the upper grades board game besties, where they're very similar to what you saw at Almond, kind of building some games. And then we moved on to first graders and third graders doing the dancing project. So really fun. The board game besties were very fun, happened every Friday. They gave us recommendations on what games they wanted so that they would come. And so we were able to purchase some new ones, but it became very popular. It's still very popular. And so we found a lot of positive interactions. Again, students who are not really some of our general education students who maybe didn't excel at competitive games were able to come in here and then teach checkers or teach chess to another friend. And so that was really awesome. So just a couple more pictures of kiddos working. And then the younger grades, we have some kids that kind of go on the peripheral of the playground. And so doing the dancing pod chums was wonderful. So it's a little structured, a little unstructured, but perfect for young kids. And so they're doing a lot of exploratory dance and getting ready to do a special dance for the principal at the end of the month. Really fun. So they had to keep changing spaces again because it became so popular. The other part with Loyola, if we go back, so they also did, the special team wanted to do a kind of a mini allyship project with other general education teachers at Loyola. And so they promoted a series of mini workshops. They took from the teachers at Loyola, what did they want to learn more about? What would help them be able to better serve the students that come into their classroom? And so a couple, they did prompting hierarchy, listening comprehension, like targeting how to identify listening comprehension and support it, and accommodations and modifications. They did that throughout the entire year, and they got really positive feedback from the Loyola teams. All right, Oak. We saw a lot from Oak today. Oak, we started in a different, that we were really looking at targeting more diverse upper grade students. And with that, when we sat down with the team, what we really realized is that we had to start with education. And often with abilities awareness, it's kind of how we started inclusion software. It was about educating about your differences, walking in the shoes for just a little bit. And we noticed that that's a good place to start, but then it doesn't continue, right? It doesn't continue on with the empathy training for students, building key relationships. So for Oak, we decided for this group that they really needed to go back to the education. So they needed to work with the upper class students around understanding students with differences. We got some great responses from the kids. And some of the questions were, how do I become more interactive with someone with a disability and not feel uncomfortable? How do I be inclusive and kind if I feel uncomfortable about what they're doing? They were able to ask some questions like, what happens? How do I navigate this? What if I'm not comfortable with what they're doing? Meaning they might be doing something unexpected. And so they were able to ask the questions and get responses. And then it moved into a lunch brunch. So we took a couple of key people, put them together and be able to do like a games. But we found a lot more, once we started the education for that group, we found a lot more willingness to come to the lunch brunch. When we just started with the lunch brunch, we didn't have anybody. So now when we did the education, we got a little more traction. So we're going to continue on with there, add some more lunch brunch, and then expand more grade levels to work with the education at a younger grade. Santa Rita, I think they came in, they spoke a little bit about these as well to you. So I will just kind of highlight it. They had a 6th grade group for leadership, and they did a bunch of lunchtime clubs. But what made it part of their allyship program process is that they really identified a couple of clubs for key kiddos who are not included there. And so they picked a couple of kids in their particular interests and built a club around that. So that they would be, so the one student really enjoyed nature. So they built a nature club so that student would feel included in part, and it was their choice. Choice interest, I guess. So that worked out really positively. A lot of the 6th graders, it was done, not led by special education at all, really done by the leadership team, the principal and the leader and the 6th grade teachers. And they found really a positive impact from that. A lot of the students created everyone had somewhere that they could go, everyone felt really connected, and then it kind of formed new connections of students who normally wouldn't have played together. Springer also did a lunch bunch. And what was neat about Springer is they had a target group of kiddos who they were looking to really foster the friendship and just kind of more meaningful interactions with students during lunch. And they did really fun things to draw some kids in. They had too many kids, and so they had to learn that sometimes we have to start a little bit smaller. But they really found ways to highlight they target kids in there. So each kid got to maybe do a little instruction of something that one girl was really good at origami, and so she got to do a bunch of origami and teach everyone how to do origami. Someone else was really good at art. So they really tried to highlight some of our friends in a different way that they don't see, that the students don't see in the classrooms, in a fun, positive way. And so they really encouraged the connections. There was a lot of focus on building conversation to start, and then doing an activity and then ending the conversation. So they were strategic in how to do this. So they have some ideas on how they want to tweak it for next year, but they are really excited to be able to continue to have it grow. They saw a lot of very positives with it. And just this quote speaks that, this is we do it. It doesn't, inclusion is not just for our students who we target, but everybody. That's right. I think that's the thing that we always want to make sure that we know, that our families know, that our parents know. And here is our allyship team, everyone who just started, there's more people than are just here. They had teams behind them at their sites working, and we had the support of the CDE actually. Supporting some of that's all I want. Questions?
Any questions?
I have some questions. You had them all, each school come up with different ways to do the program. Are the different people in the group going to be sharing best practices to try to get the same? Some of the stuff is anyway, but like one of the things working out at one school, are you going to be trying to get it going in the next school?
Yeah, we did. So we did allyship project meetings throughout the year. And then now at the end of the year, we have our specialist meeting where we meet all the teachers and special education teachers and all the speech pathology. And we've been highlighting the same that we've been sharing with everybody. And so they can start to think about it, and then we'll do a planning session for next year to see what's, how do we get, what's next? And that's why I have each of them identify their next step, right? And see what they may need.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. Are we keeping like data on this, because the loneliness and the kids who are like not engaged, but it goes back to supporting our kids socially, emotionally also. And I feel like this has great impact, but I would love if we could capture it, data wise. I'm sure that there's like grants for this kind of thing. I think they grant for this, but you often need to show that data. But I would really love to be able to say that, our team is doing this and this is the impact.
That's a great, yeah, I can go back and have them put in how many students served, like maybe during this year, and then we can kind of keep track year to year. Is that what you mean by just kind of how many?
Yeah, but also like, how is it impacting the students themselves? Like, I love that last quote, like with the peer tutors, right? It's like the peer tutor and their buddy. Like, how is it impacting? Like, some of the anecdotal quotes really capture that beautifully, but just wonder if we can capture that. Yeah.
And you even had in some of these things where you had impact, you said at Covington, that behaviors did decrease and students were motivated. So that's
exactly.
data. Like,
That's exact.
Okay. Yes, we can do. Thank you.
Any requests for public comment? No.
This is maybe a question for Sandra. How many of our teachers speak Spanish fluently?
I would have to go through our list. I don't know, probably no more than 10 would be my guess.
And Mandarin?
I don't know.
Right.
To Molly,
Yes.
how many co-teachers do we have? Or how many pairs
Wow,
of
that's a
teachers?
lot. Okay, so, I have to go school by school. So Block has all the subjects in both grade levels. So 8. Egan is math, English, so 2, 4, 5, 6, 6. Right, so science and history. Santa Rita has 2 teams. So 4 people there. Springer has a trio working together, so there's 3 there. Are you adding up? I'm just like saying. I was like, Loyola is at 2 people this year, and Almond is at with 3 people this year.
So I was just, the reason I was asking, I wanted to know.
About.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
How many kids are served? Do we need to expand the program? That kind of stuff. That's really the question.
So, yeah, in the junior highs, I know our numbers are running between 28 and 30 per co-top class. For students that are being served in that co-top class period. Total population.
Not all of the target kiddos.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely
that's
not.
around.
About 1/3 of them are targeted IEPs. Our elementaries, I don't know the average class size.
You guys do vary.
I was gonna say, I think the lowest would be, I think the lowest is 22 to maybe 25 in each of the elementary rooms. But like, because we are being creative with the elementaries, so the way like 5th grade is running it, it's an ever moving kind of wheel of need for the reading and the writing, and so we're always hitting our targeted kiddos, and then the other ones are shifting through as well.
Correct. I mean, we have a little bit of a lower caseload than in years past. So we're flexing that by adding on to the, being able to do co-teaching a little bit more.
I got the impression the games were very popular.
So,
Up with games.
yeah.
And one final question on student-led conferences. Who is present in a student-led conference?
So this year it was the avid teacher. She held them in her room, and then she would have 2 or 3 students come in for appointment times with their families.
And each student led their little portion of.
Yep. So they led their own individual conference while it was in the classroom. So there might have been 1 or 2 other students in there, but they were all leading their own conferences. And then teachers were asked to give feedback. So they also got their teacher feedback at the conference, and then they had a plan out for what they were going to share with their parents. It was all mapped out for what they were going to do. And then, of course, parents' questions are the piece that they have to be able to answer on the fly. But they had a map of what they were doing in practice, and then their parents came in and they led their conference, and then they got their other teacher feedback and then answered questions for the parents.
And you had a plan to do it in multi-languages for the Viking showcase. but
Yes.
Students didn't want to.
So we, in trying to make a bigger inclusion this year, we met with Jennifer and Connie and the inclusion team and had come up with this whole plan that we would ask students, especially our second language learners, what language they would like to present in. And so when the time came and they were asked, all of them chose to speak in English. They wanted to accept that challenge, and we're like, oh.
And if you saw when you
Great.
signed up to go, you had the option if you wanted to do it in a different language, and that was the purpose. of that.
Yeah.
They all chose, like, okay,
They all
it
chose.
should be led by kids, okay.
So for point of reference, both for myself and my wife, neither one of us ever once talked to our parent about our school. How we're doing in school. Things have changed, and I think it's pretty fabulous.
Okay.
I thought all of it was great. Hope you do more successful.
Thank you.
I love your t-shirt, Jen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so if you see people, anyone who were, if you were part of the Allyship project, this is the t-shirt that you got from Allyship. So if you see people walking around, you can say, hey, that means you're part of the Allyship project.
That's nice.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to I2 staff housing update.
All right, we're gonna get our slides up and running. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So it's been a while since we've had an update on 231 grant. I was actually blown away by some of the pictures that you're gonna see. I was, wow, there's really progress
over there recently.
being made. So we're so thrilled to have you here tonight and get forward a little update.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Hollywood. I'm with Mercy Housing. Mercy Housing is one of the co-developers along with Abode Communities. You've met over the years we've been working with you, either myself or my counterpart at Abode, Megan Pearson. So anyway, thank you for having us back. We, just a little reminder on the program. The entire building is 110 units and consists of studio 1 and 2-bedroom apartments. There is included on the ground floor a small retail space, which we intend to have a community serving purpose on the corner in that retail space. We committed finally at the end of, there was a long road coming, but we have 4 districts that have that fully committed, and Los Altos School District committed to having 24 units allocated to Los Altos School District, along with Palo Alto Unified, Mountain View, Westman, Foothill, De Anza. And then there's additionally 32 units that are serving teachers and educators within Southern San Mateo County. And that encompasses part of Ravenswood School District and Menlo Atherton School District, that area kind of in Southern San Mateo County. And I can get into some of the details if there's questions just as part of the program, but reminder, we are serving a range of incomes and targeting households kind of in that missing middle. The range of incomes are 60 to 140% of the area median income that gets established yearly. Those income levels just came out for 2024. And our timeline will put us at and even though we won't be leasing until 2025, or moving to 2025, we'll use this year's income certifications and levels to establish that for next year because it will be out in time. So reminder, if you haven't been to the site recently, it's really exciting out there at 231 Grand, which is just off of California Avenue, close to Caltrain stop there and some major arterial on Oregon Expressway, just off of El Camino. And it's really developing into a nice little community there. There's the public safety building is almost done there. The garage just opened. There are some updates happening to some of the streetscapes around. So there's a lot happening in that little area that's all going to kind of culminate and be completed right around the same time. This is an aerial view of the design for 231 Grant. You can see there's kind of 4 wings and 3 central courtyards. There's a corner, the corner on the far left, that's where the retail space is going to be included. And on the far right, there's 5 units on the ground floor that will be walk-up units on the ground floor, and be kind of our fully accessible units on the ground floor. And then central staircase, to kind of highlight, we had hoped to work with the Fiery Arts program out of Palo Alto Unified School District to put some glass orbs in there, but that is no longer around. So we're actually trying to find a local artist to incorporate some art throughout the building, and are gonna try to work on that too, to get some student and education art throughout the building. So that's one of our next projects coming up. So that's where we're at. And then I know it's kind of hard to see, but this is construction. So this is actually on the 2nd floor. They're starting to frame some of the actual units. The garage is all concrete built underneath here. And this is some more photos of kind of starting on the 2nd level of wood frame construction. And then we're already almost at like the 3rd level of wood frame, and they anticipate topping out the building next month, which means that wood frame is the quickest part. It's crazy how quickly it goes up. It's like we're in the ground for a year and doing concrete, and all of a sudden they start wood framing and we're done in like 2 months. So that the roof is going to go on this summer, and then we'll start doing the interior of the building, which is really exciting. It's really starting to come together. You can like feel the space, and it's nice. So I wanted to give a little bit of an update on the application process and what we're anticipating our next steps on that to be. So as you may recall, or we will have a full residential selection criteria process and application process that will be outlined. That was included in previous board packets for kind of a draft of what that will be for your review and approval, which I think happened at the end of mid last year. If there's substantial changes to that, as we finalize that, that will come back to the district for approval. If there's anything that's, notably different in what we had anticipated in that process. But generally speaking, once we set up the final application criteria, those applications will be released through a public process, through the district, so everyone has an eligibility to understand the information, absorb the information at the same time. Applications will be received by a specific deadline. Typically, we give a very set time period for that to happen, so it's done within 2 or 3 weeks and expected an application to come back. There'll be lots of pre-warnings before that. Application process is coming, this is what you can expect, this is what you'll need for the application process. Then we will take in the applicants and confirm their eligibility based on their household income, their size, their household, and their employment status within the school districts. Once we have that, we will hold a lottery. There'll be a separate lottery for each of the districts because we have 24 allocated units for your district. So there'll be a lottery from those applicants for this district. Then there'll be a wait list established on how those were held. So there'll be, 1 through 500 or however we'll get. And then we'll contact those applicants for more detailed information on the application process as far as the status of the wait list. Then we'll provide their income and employment verifications. That's when we verify all that information. So we don't they kind of self-certify that they're within that app, they're eligible under the eligibility criteria that's established. And then once we kind of get them through the waitlist period, if you're selected for a 2-bedroom unit at a specific income level, then we would then go through with the certification process to make sure, verify their employment, verify their household income. And then qualified applicants would be offered a lease and ability to sign lease and move in. All of that information we anticipate what we would like to do at the end of the year, and we're trying to, or for the end of the school year, what we're trying to work on is getting an updated flyer for your district so that you can distribute that to interested parties. We're trying to have that out in the next 2 weeks. We know the end of the school year is coming up quickly. And that's just like an update. We're hoping to have an update that you guys can help distribute to interested members of the district. And then that information would also be on the website so we can update and still track divert people to the website for interested people. So there we go. Referrals would be interest people can go to the website, you'd be placed on an interest list. So then as documentation was updated, they would have notifications through our marketing materials, assistance from the district and ongoing district support is hopefully anticipated by helping to distribute any marketing materials that we would have to all eligible employees, assist with organizing information sessions we hope to hold in the fall. Once we have the finalized residential selection criteria, we have the rents established, we know move-in dates, would be within 6 months time period. So we hope to have a series of meetings or however we kind of jointly decide that would be best to be done. And then hopefully we could designate ongoing one person from the district that would kind of be our point of contact for verifying income and employment verification yearly, because we would have to do that yearly as part of our yearly process. And then, as mentioned, if there's any, as we finalize the residential selection criteria in partnership with the County of Santa Clara, if there's any substantial changes to that, we would come back and notify, you of substantial changes that may need to be approved by the district. So timeline, we started construction last July. We're anticipating construction being completed in May. This fall, we're hoping to do a more robust outreach period, have a series of meetings, whatever we kind of jointly decide would be the best way to do that. We're working on that process right now with our marketing team and leasing team. And we anticipate starting marketing and leasing process early January. So really hope to have that timeline nailed down and updates to then, yeah, well, to start those meetings. And that's it. That's all I have for time frame, but I'm here for questions. So what would be helpful for you? Yeah.
Just on the timeline,
Yeah.
are you going to have like a grand opening ribbon cutting? I would love a tour.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Great question. So yes, all the above. What we would like to do, and we actually was just talking about this morning, is we would like to do a model unit so that we can walk people through when we're doing the leasing. So they actually have an idea of like, this is what you'd be moving into. This is what your expectations of the building are. So we'd love to bring you at that point too. There, we could even do a hard hat tour. We're kind of like closer to the end of construction would be a good time for you guys to come. So yes, we could do that. And then we do more of a grand opening once folks are all moved into the building. There's kind of an established time frame of this has been operating successfully for several months. So we anticipate probably a grand opening. We're thinking right now, probably fall 2025, because move-ins would start about May. Give ourselves a few months, folks to move in. School's back in the fall, probably September, October for a grand opening. Yeah, 2025. Yeah. And which everyone would be invited, and we do a big tour of the building that completed. Yeah. But if hard hat tours, we could definitely something that we could do when we're a little bit farther along, that you guys could see the units. And then we anticipate trying to figure out a way that we can do that during the leasing period as well. So we have kind of a model unit ready to go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just along those lines, we got to tour the Mountain View teachers and staff, educator housing. Are there any common spaces in this project?
Yes, there are on the ground floor. I did not bring
It's okay, I just.
floor
I had
plans with me.
forgotten. what-
Yes, there are. So in the ground, is there?
Disappointed.
Oh, there is, okay.
Yeah.
So in the ground floor right here,
Yeah.
there's a community room. I want to say it's about 1,500 square feet-ish, but it has, it's a large community room, actually, and it even has like a front porch off of it, and it's just for the use of the residents. So I say community room, like residential community room. But they typically, well, inside of it, and as typical with a lot of our buildings, we would have a kitchen that can be used, not a commercial kitchen, but really like a residential size kitchen, so you can host a party there. Host an evening event or a party or, a birthday party or something like that. And typically we furnish those out and, it can be rented out by use. We also have another couple of meeting rooms within the building that we designed that can be rented out for, you needed to do a Zoom call after hours, or you wanted to rent it out for special meeting for you to meet one-on-one with someone else. So there's a few meeting rooms that can be used, and a couple of workspaces, in the lobby that are kind of more like community workspaces. Sorry, I didn't bring photos of that.
No, that's fine. I have one more question. The whole resident selection criteria, is that generally supposed to be the same across all districts?
Yes,
Okay.
everyone will have the same criteria. The income levels, yes, will be the same. Just trying to think. The income levels will be the same because it's done by the county where we qualify those certain income levels. But everything will be the same. Yes, as far as the criteria. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything different for district. I don't think there is. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about person or family that moves in, qualifies. One of the family members gets a new job, no longer qualifies. Also, family moves in, qualifies, right? Qualifies, moves in. The next year, what happens? Do they automatically qualify? If they qualify next year, if they qualify, do they automatically stay in the apartment, or does it go into the lottery system again?
If they are still employed by the district, they would still qualify year to year, but we would have to verify their employment year. If someone that's employed by the district is no longer employed by the district, and no longer employed by any of the other participating districts, then we would work on a strategy to move them, because they would no longer be eligible to live there. So we'd work on a strategy for them to move out. We have that all outlined within our leasing process, so that they understand if you're no longer an employee of the district, that you may be subject to be asked to leave based on certain criteria that's established.
Okay.
And then that unit would go to a next available person on the wait list from the district, and we would pull from another eligible recipient within the district.
That was gonna be my question. So the lottery really only happens the first time.
Yes.
Beyond that, it's a first served wait list.
Well, yeah, it's a wait list. But the lottery established, initially, we'd go down that wait
Sure, but
list.
I mean, as new
Yes.
teachers come into the district and are interested in this, do they just sign up as they become employed?
They
or-
sign up as they become employed. That's a great question. Let me get that confirmed for you. I believe so. Or.
I know we'll have prospective teachers who will want to know the answer. to this question.
Yeah, because I don't know. Yes, let me get an answer to that question. Like if year two, there's two new units that come open, are we going back to the initial wait list, or is it a new lottery? Yeah, let me.
I mean, I would assume the wait list persists, but I
Yeah.
could see either doing first come, first served add to it, or like an
Mhm.
annual lottery process to establish the order in which people get added to it.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Would be just like picking two names of the hat.
Yeah.
They're being added to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That's great, thank you.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
It's exciting.
I think we don't have any
Double,
public-
like construction.
Right?
Amazing. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to I3, LASD and BCS discussions. Got it all flash.
I think I'm going to let the gals provide an update.
We were supposed to have a meeting with them on the 14th of May, which they ended up calling off. Before the meeting, they asked that we would sign a confidentiality agreement. We definitely read loud and clear from 2019 forward that our community requires us to do this very transparently. So we told them that we do not agree to confidentiality. And so they decided that they would prefer not to go into any more discussions with our.
We don't have any more meetings planned at this point. Decline to meet.
We would like to meet. We for sure would like to meet. I think it's time for us to put this 20-year divisive issue behind us.
And just to clarify, sorry, they were asking for a confidentiality agreement, not just with you two, but with all of us. And
With
for
all
us
of
to
us.
Stop these items.
Yes,
That-
from us, coming to our board meetings and telling you what has happened in between, then it's correct.
So I'm not sure what direction to give staff because they declined to meet with us. I don't know what you all think.
Well, I think they're just, I mean, Sandra mentioned earlier that design, the template is ongoing.
Sure.
So I think we've indicated that our preference is to allocate that space to BCS once it's available, so. They for some reason don't want to participate in the design, it seems like it's their loss. Or not, I'm not sure what else I should say.
And before before they asked for confidentiality, they were in earnest talking to us about it. They were in earnest talking to us and asking clarifying questions about Lincoln. And they had been saying, maybe not the entirety of them at the tent site, maybe a footprint somewhere. These were all things that we have reported out to you. Right. They were talking in this prior, but now they do not want to talk to us unless it's coming.
All right, well, thank you for your efforts.
I mean, I'm willing to continue to ask them to talk and talk in such a way that we can be transparent with our community. But I don't know what they're.
All right, I guess we'll move on then to I4, the board governance handbook.
Right, so attached to the agenda today was the red line version from edits we made, you all suggested at the last meeting, and then a clean version essentially. So I would love to know, are there any last minute final changes? But in the end, I'm hoping that we can take some action, you can take some action and approve a board governance handbook.
Are there any questions from the board? Any questions, public comment? Any further changes, suggestions, anything? That anybody wants to? Bring up?
With
Anyone?
Sandra's introduction there, I hesitate to.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the board governance handbook?
So move. I withdraw the.
No, don't withdraw the motion. I will second.
Discussion, motion to approve the board governance handbook as presented, made by Vladimir, seconded by Shally. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Excuse me, 5-0.
Congratulations. Yeah, handbook.
We have rules and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to I5, budget review committee recommendations. Mr. Walkevich.
In the agenda tonight is the annual budget review committee recommendations for the 24-25 budget and LCAP. The committee met several times this spring, putting together one of the very large advisory committees for the board that makes recommendations. We met last week to finalize these recommendations. A couple of key points I want to highlight is some of the recommendations that the committee made last year about right-sized staffing or continues to be our approach for this year. As enrollment declined slightly, we matched our staffing to match that. We're also able, one of the biggest priorities to the need to attract, retain quality staff. I think that's an ongoing thing with school districts having a teacher shortage in the county and state. It's very hard to find talented young teachers. And so the need to be competitive for salaries and benefits is a priority. So if we have to be very careful with our spending in doing that. So the committee talked about right sizing staffing. We're able to provide substantial salary increases last year and this current budget year, 6% last year and 6% this current year. So we're very fortunate to do that. We did meet our reductions. So the committee talks about a couple of workload reductions for this year. We were able to seek a new vendor for the Universal Meals Program that we approved at the last meeting. We did need to hire 2 new TK teachers and TK aides, so our TK program is expanding. So we made sure in our budget to make sure it's accounted for. Making sure we can find ways to save in maintenance and operations using multiple new vendors. Mental health supports is a priority. In fact, we received a check today from Valley Health Foundation for a new wellness centers that will be adopting those. We also received money from El Camino Real Hospital, El Camino Hospital, not the street. But we, a significant increase, in fact, earlier tonight on the consent agenda with the adolescent counseling services, new mental health provider for the district. Vladimir asked a question about bilingual. They do have 2 Spanish speaking clinicians as part of those services, which is great to know. So our Spanish speaking students will have access to those bilingual speakers, which is great. Another thing that we talked about is high quality programs. So in order to keep the programs going, we have to have high quality teachers, and that's really the number one driver, I think, in our budget for this year, is being able to support our students and staff for mental health needs. We do have a lot of investment in mental health counseling. We have state mental health funds. We have tremendous psychological services that are open to our students. And then we also have, we value employee wellness for our employees. We have a employee assistance program that we started this year. So our staff has access to those counseling services. So very important to meet our academic and social emotional needs. The other thing, a highlight that the committee was talking about, the facilities master plan. Now, it's not really, it's kind of outside the scope of the budget review committee, but there was a little caveat. John Michelson, who's on the CACF and also on the budget review committee, talked about the idea is the more ability we have a really updated, robust facility master plan and able to implement it, will actually save our general fund from facility rentals, from removing old dilapidated portables, things to invest in energy and HVAC lighting system. All those things help support teaching and learning in the classrooms. So a little bit outside the purview of the budget review committee, but important to recognize that a facility master plan supports kids and teaching and learning. So something to really think about. And then obviously the number one thing is there's a little bit of instability, as you know, in Sacramento. We're fortunate that we're a basic aid school district. Some of the things that happen in Sacramento do not impact us greatly, but there are some adjustments we'll have to make in some of our reductions. And so the committee is asking the board to support the recommendations as we get closer to adopting the budget, which should be in like 2 weeks away. So that's our budget review committee recommendations for 24-25.
One comment. It said in here, checks being dissolved. It's not being dissolved. It's evolving. And and I know we chose not to engage with them this year, but I know they're going to continue to evolve their services, but they're actually opening up a clinic. And on that is the plan currently. So that's, it's not going away. I just want to make that clear.
Our relationship.
No reason why it should. I think it's still open to as the ability to move into this wellness program that's being launched by the state.
Yeah.
And that ability to tap funds. Civic Clinic's actually set up to take private health insurance, Medicare. They provide those services to other schools in the area. I think as we have that other resource, finances come out of the direction, we could actually re-engage with them. And I think they're looking forward to having that conversation. Getting a little ahead of myself, guys, because this is still in negotiation,
Right.
but all those things are on the table still. So just wanted to make that one. I think it's not one. And the name chat wouldn't go away. Negotiation. It will stay in place for another year or two.
In the same building.
In the same building.
Other preliminary questions? Request for public comment? No. I'll offer one comment, which is especially given the speaker we had earlier, I was encouraged to see the bit about mental health services. I do think, it would be interesting to see once we get a couple months into 2025 and hopefully we'll start to begin charging private insurance for the services we're already providing. It'd be interesting to see a year from now what the numbers look like and whether we actually could expand to become more of a general mental health provider than I think board policy has been in the past, just because it's been kind of zero sum in the past, given that we haven't gotten a lot of these resources. But given our community and the dearth of adolescent mental health providers in our area, it'd be interesting to see if we could actually staff up, whether it's with civic clinics or with ACS or our own people, and actually offer this.
The conversation we're definitely having is what do these wellness centers look like? Right? And how are they, what are the funds that we could tap to do it? We work with maybe on this process, or do we have to create a process engine?
Right.
And share that responsibility across the county, a big county service that processes. But all those things are in play at the moment.
Yeah,
Being tested out.
It's gonna be interesting to see exactly how much money we get out of private insurance. I know sometimes it's hard to get mental health services paid for by private insurance.
Most private insurers through companies today offer them.
Well,
but to your point, Civic Clinics is a better known name than Check It.
Sure.
So I think those are good, and they actually have that system already in place.
Well, if we can do that, maybe, because, I mean, I know from personal experience that you can find a mental health provider, and most of the ones we've talked to won't deal with insurance themselves, so then it's on you to try to get reimbursed, and sometimes the insurance company fights you, and sometimes they don't. If we can
One
streamline.
that scares me more than that, is there's a gap of people who have, don't have private insurance, aren't medical qualified. There's a chunk of people in the middle there that would still rely on us to, if we're gonna have those services for 5 minutes. The thing is, you're thinking in those terms, it's, private insurance, medical, there's also people who don't qualify.
Yeah.
And that, making sure those children have access, is gonna be something we keep on.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see how the finances, we'll keep our fingers crossed that the finances look good.
We'll have to patch together all the different types of money.
As always.
Yes. It was interesting, I was in delegate assembly this weekend, and one of the things we were talking about is how all of the districts across the state are dealing with the loss of that sort of the one time. And the big drumbeat is don't spend one-time money on things that eat. Don't spend it on people, which is on ongoing programs. If there is a person related to the ongoing program and if they eat. It's a way to look at it. And you have that here.
All right. Anything else? Thank you very much. And we'll move on.
It's an action item.
Oh.
No,
So,
review, sorry about that.
moving on to
The action.
Exciting.
I6, Proposition 28, Arts and Music in Schools, 2024-25 expenditure plan approval.
So it's been a year and a half since the state of California voters approved Prop 28. And it was the Art, Music in Schools Guarantee Accountability Act. And we finally received our allocation this last spring. Unfortunately, we're already getting into budget adoption for next year. So the thought process is that we have to have it's required to have an approved plan. So tonight we're bringing you our expenditure plan for the funds. And we heard earlier tonight about the great program, our computer science won the Hoffman Awards. One of the art music discretionary block grant of this grant is ongoing funds, and it'll be it's based on your student enrollment. So the plan is based on a 3372 enrollment. The funding is based on, and that's including the preschool, and so the total funding for the district is $390,000. It'll be funding 2 computer science teachers for the 24-25 school year. We can allocate up to 80% for staffing, 20% for supplies. So we allocated $4,390 for some supplies. So the total Prop 28 expenditures for 24-25 will be $390,000. Ongoing funding, it'll be adjusted every year based on our ADA. And then we also get extra funding for unduplicated pupils.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
You said that funding could be allocated 30% for people and 20%.
So at least 80% of the funding must be used for people.
So if I look at the numbers there, it's like 95% is allocated. For funding.
Correct. So the best use of the funds for us is for our staff.
I have to go back this computer, even though in my mind is art or music, shows up as a.
Yeah. So I was just looking at all those arts there, and they would definitely need some supplies.
Can I make a comment? Okay. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I know that for one of us will remember the Hoffman Awards, but when I went to the Hoffman Awards, I learned that what our computer science program, and it's not very common, I think, to have a K-6 program or K-5, but our program was born out of an arts education project, didn't come, I guess, from like STEM science, but it came from like doing art. So I thought that was like a really, really interesting, unique kind of perspective. That's how our program was born. So I'm really glad to see that in this arts education grant that we are funding two full-time computer science teachers.
And as shown in the first bullet, Prop 28 required a new program. Is this new in that we're hiring new positions for computer science?
So we expanded the computer science program this year in anticipation. We knew Prop 28 was coming.
Okay.
It took much longer to get funding than we had, whatever, anybody had anticipated.
Yeah.
But our program grew hugely for the number of sessions that our TK to 8th grade now receives. Yeah, so we expanded the program.
And one of the reasons why this didn't go into, say, the art docent program is because it's not new. Correct? And
It's not what?
not new. It had to go to something new that we didn't already have, and we didn't already have staff for a great volunteer effort in this case. Anyway, I just wanted that to be understood too, where it says arts all over this, but I'm glad it does actually mention computers and digital arts.
It needs to either be a new program or supplement an existing program.
Can I ask that we get an overview of our computer science program?
Yeah, we'll probably do that at the beginning of fall if that
Okay.
works.
Yeah.
Just because we're lined up at the end of the year.
I love the little bee bots. So cute.
You just want to.
I just want them to be there. They didn't have bee bots in my day.
Okay. Further discussion? Someone would like to make a motion?
So moved. I just moved.
Oh, second. I did-
Motion to approve the Proposition 28 Arts and Music in Schools expenditure plan made by Shelley, seconded by Vladimir. Absent any further board discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 5-0. Item I7, resolution 24/25-20, establish temporary interfund transfers. Just as a note, as originally published, the agenda accidentally said 23/24-20 instead of 24/25-20, but the content is otherwise unchanged.
We're already working a year ahead.
This is a routine item, many basic school district can do interfund borrowing, can borrow from other funds that sit outside the general fund. And this is a resolution. We also, at the previous meeting, we did a TRAN, which is our tax revenue anticipation note, where we borrow in the market to meet our cash flow during the summer. And the reason for that is we only receive tax revenue certain times of the year. So there are certain times of the year where our cash level is lower than you would like, so we do borrow. And then this is another instrument for the district to borrow if needed. So we don't anticipate needing to borrow, but we'd like to have this as a precautionary measure. This is an action item to approve resolution 24/25-20 to establish temporary interfund transfers.
Sorry, I misspoke. It should be 23/24. The other way.
23.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's my fault. I misspoke when I tried to clarify.
Got it.
What is the correct?
23 has 24 is correct.
Because it's the 23-24 school year.
Yeah, no, I see.
And it's for the 24/25 school year.
Right, that's what makes it
Oh,
more confusing.
But we're doing it.
All right, are there any other questions
Yes.
that we can muddle this even more?
What is define temporary?
Temporary is you can borrow up to 75% of the cash in another fund, but you have to pay it back within 120 days in the same fiscal year. So that's a temporary borrowing short term.
Can you roll it over?
Probably not advised.
But it's a lot.
Yes.
Okay. All right, it's fine.
Any requests for public comment? Any further board discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve resolution 23/24-20, establishing temporary interfund transfers made by Shelley, seconded by Vladimir. Absent any further board discussion, I will need to call the roll. Steve?
Yeah.
Vladimir?
Yes.
Shelley?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yeah.
I also vote yes, motion passes 5-0.
Why do you have to call roll? Oh, it's resolution.
Moving on to Item I8, board policy updates.
Yep, you have 6 new board policies. Tonight is the discussion and review coming back to you on June 3rd at our next meeting for approval. If you have any questions, concerns. Yes, Vladimir.
On policy 3553.
Free and reduced price meals.
Yeah, so the third paragraph, which is totally new, which is in red. I can remember, I think I remember correctly, some students at, like, say, Eagan or something like that, hanging around until everybody had gotten fed and asking for seconds. And this seems to forbid that.
Doesn't forbid it. The language does not forbid it. It just is saying that the district can sell the contract. Doesn't forbid it.
Yeah, I don't,
Can we change the wording so it's allowed? Explicitly?
it's ed code.
I'm uncomfortable with selling a student a meal.
So we actually don't do this. I know that
We don't do it.
we don't sell additional meals or portions of meals at lunchtime to students. I think some surrounding districts, I know it is an option.
Those guys.
Yes, yeah,
Those kind of.
Yeah, so
High
we,
school district.
yeah, so we, because we have a contract with
right.
a vended company, it's,
Los Gatos or us?
no, the district.
Okay.
Yeah, we just hired a contract with the lunch master 2 weeks ago. Part of the contract will be, we can't have competing food sales, so we can't be selling our own food in competition with them. However, if we have an extra meal that's sitting there and a student wants seconds, it is free for them. We will give a student a second meal, but we can't claim it for reimbursement twice.
Right.
So we can only claim the meal for one kid, 1 day per meal. For breakfast and lunch. So if a kid does want an extra meal, which we do currently, if there are extra meals and a student wants them, we do give it to them, but we're not allowed to.
So, okay, so why don't we just remove that? In its entirety.
We could consider it. I don't know if there will be a point in time where we have our own kitchen program and we have things, but
So if there's an extra meal and it either goes to waste or it goes to a student. And in either case, we don't get reimbursed for it. So get rid of it. That's my recommendation. Don't want to have the hungry students out there.
I have to agree with some other comments earlier. I don't read that the same way you do. If we can't
Well-
sell it to them, doesn't mean we can't.
Well, we don't
sell at all.
sell any food at
Right.
all.
We don't,
So
we
this
used
is,
to have student stores at our junior high schools, where kids could buy whatever,
Yeah.
quite some time. So I think it's there, the ed code is there to address those types of things.
I still think we should get rid of it.
I like the flexibility that if we have a surgery in the future where they are having meals even in, not at lunchtime, maybe sometime after lunchtime, they want the ability to buy it. That is what was happening at Los Gatos is there was breakfast, brunch and lunch, and you can only get 2 free meal a day. So kids were also getting a third meal, and it gives them the ability to purchase it. And I think that if maybe in the future we would have possibly be making our food. And it does not prohibit what we're all doing.
So if we do sell our own food sometime in the future, it'll be fairly big. We can change it then.
Is that paragraph
We'll look at it.
that we can change or not change?
Yeah, that I
I'll have
don't
to
know.
look. I don't know if
Okay.
we can not have it.
I mean, my assumption is that this is, I mean, we get update packets from CSBA, right? So my assumption that this is a recommended change to this bylaw to clarify the district's obligation under the universal free lunch, which is a relatively new thing. To sort of say that in the case of Los Gatos, like, you are allowed to sell food once you have provided a student with a free meal. So it's fairly innocuous, but given that we don't sell food at all right now, I don't have a problem.
Weekly.
Moving on. Item J, board administration comments. Dr. Baskin.
Just a quick comment. We're wrapping up all of our strategic planning and LCAP input sessions. We had a really nice session with PTA leadership, and Eric and Kate facilitated the BRC. This year we're doing something new and we're doing focus groups with some of our grade students to get some impact or some input and narrative from students and student voice. So we'll be excited to bring you a draft at the June meeting.
Business staff is working, very diligently getting an adopted budget ready to go. We're excited to, present in 2 weeks, the, public hearing.
I agree with Sanders' comment.
The only thing is, attended the LA.
Leadership social event, yeah.
Into the Hoffman Awards.
Yeah, also good. That's
Hoffman Awards, we did that challenge team lunch. And I was at delegate assembly, this weekend, learning and voting on things with CSBA. As I mentioned, we did have some breakout sessions on how districts are dealing with the fallout of losing all our one-time funds and, yeah, I brought up that saying. I learned a lot from, I was paired up in a group that had a bunch of Moreno Valley trustees in it and all the things that they had to do. They're a pretty big district, and also had been hit with really old lawsuits because of that law having to do with sexual assault that made the statute of limitations kind of go away for a little bit. Anyway, it was one of the groups that they have to help them really look at the budget. It's a group of the teachers union, there's a management union, and the staff union, and they're all working together. Once a month, they're meeting together to really figure out how to make every dollar count and how to get more dollars and how to mix all the dollars together from different sources to get where where the district needs to be. They called it a joint, I don't have my notes in front of me, but I really liked the idea. It's kind of like CACF on steroids. But I really learned a lot from them. They also did pass, I don't know if you all knew that the subsection of CSBA that was for county boards of education was disbanded. They created a new entity. It was disbanded for various reasons. They created a new way that they're enveloped into CSBA. They created a region 14 that all of the county boards of education would be participating in, and there'd be a person in charge of, or the region director of that. And they're also truly focusing on making sure there's lots of programming for them. But that was probably the big excitement in there because county boards of education were upset about what had happened. But I think they did their best. And then really, and I think all of us have seen in different emails from CSBA, the not being happy with the governor's maneuvers as it relates to problem. And basically resetting the baseline. So do expect in a lot of your email boxes, calls to action from CSBA to contact your local legislators to tell them that we do not agree with that. Although Prop 98 doesn't affect us now because we're community funded, we could be community funded tomorrow, and it could affect us. definitely look at. That's it, sorry.
I'd like to add that Jessica graciously hosted the LAF Foundation. And the hors d'oeuvres were superior. And do I have to report that?
On Form 700?
I don't think it was over 50. Yeah, how much did you?
Speaking of that event, one of the realtors who was there, who's been a
Oh,
member
yeah,
of our
yeah.
realtor circle, was talking to me about a sort of a presentation that she's organizing on June 8th to local realtors about the local school districts. I'm unfortunately out of town. I wanted to see if anybody else was interested in possibly presenting after thing. I have no other details other than that it's on June 8th, but I'd be happy to connect.
Yeah, nobody else wants to do it. I think.
Can we do it together? I don't know that I'll be able to do it. I'm not sure that.
Fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if Sally insists on butting in.
Yeah, it's a Saturday.
What time is it?
I don't
All day starting at 6.
know.
Let me see first.
I can give her both of your email
Sure,
addresses. if you
let's
prefer.
do that.
So you can expect an email from her. And I've also been making the rounds of PTA meetings, talking about facility master plan and bond process, trying to make sure that they're, at least the executive boards are aware of what's going on. Gotten some good questions, at various meetings. So unless anybody has anything else, we are